You're listening to Open Gym right here on WVAC 107.9 Adrian College Hit Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Round 1, fight.
Open Gym, sports news and analysis, WVAC. Welcome to an all-new episode of Open Gym right here on WVAC 107.9 Adrian College Hit Radio. I'm your host, Destin Foy, and today we got an exciting episode for you. Today is our NBA playoff preview / NFL offseason review. I'm going to talk about the MVP of the NBA. I'm going to talk about who I think is going to be a sleeper team in the playoffs, what team is going to be a first-round exit, all of that, and then we're going to go into break. We're going to talk about all the trades that happened. Of course, we're going to get into the whole Tom Brady soap opera. So let's just get right into it with the start of the show, starting off with the NBA's MVP race. Right now, it's a three-man race between last year's MVP, Nikola Jokic, Philadelphia 76ers center, Joel Embiid, and, of course, the Greek freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo. So the question I ask is, who should win MVP? And if you were to tell me right now who would I pick for MVP, I would probably say Giannis. I know the MVP really isn't it's not a playoff award. It's a regular season award. It's about what you did in the regular season. It's really turned into the narrative. But if we're talking about the Bucks are right now 51-31. They're the 2 seed. Most likely, there are a lot of people's pick to repeat. Giannis is still playing at an unbelievable level since, he won that Finals MVP last year. He's playing terrific. But so is Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid won the scoring title, averaging around 30 points a game. And, again, the first center since Shaquille O'Neal to do that. But Giannis is right there, averaging 29.9. Again, it was a three-man race for that scoring title. But, again, I'm going to take into – I know it's not a playoff award, but I do take in consideration what you're actually going to do in the playoffs. And I know right now the frontrunner and the person who most likely will win MVP is going to be Nikola Jokic. Right now, Nikola Jokic's team is sitting at number 6. They're 48-34, going to face off against the Golden State Warriors first round. So are we going to give Nikola Jokic the MVP again? And he loses first round to Golden State after getting swept second round last year? I don't know. That just him getting swept last year just never sat right with me. And I get it. He doesn't have Murray. He doesn't have Michael Porter. He's missing 2 of his top guys. And you're still that many games over 500. But you're the 6th seed. It would have been different if you didn't have Porter or Murray and you were number 3. Or, I don't know. And then the fact that Devin Booker's name is not even, mentioned whatsoever. His team is 64-18. And he's not even a part of this race. He's not even going to – I'll be shocked if he's top 5. If I was doing my top 5 for MVP race right now, my MVP is Giannis. Number 2, I'll go Embiid. Number 3, I'm going to go Devin Booker. Then I'll probably go a guy like Jason Tatum, and then I'll go Nikola Jokic. I don't know. The idea of just because your 2 guys are there and you are above 5 and you're a 6 seed, I don't know. If you're Nikola Jokic as good as you say you are, I don't think that's crazy. I don't know. And I also don't think, what would Jamal Murray and Michael Porter make it? Would they really be that much better? Would they be a 50-win team with them? I don't know. A lot of people were sold on Jamal Murray after the bubble. I'm not one of those guys. So, again, just what Giannis has been doing all year, not only offensively, defensively as well. He could potentially, win all MVP and Defensive Player of the Year again. And this would be, I think, the first time in NBA history that somebody has done that twice. Won MVP and Defensive Player of the Year twice. Because I know he's only one of a few men. He's only one of MJ and Hakeem to have done that. So if he does it twice, man, Giannis is going to probably be a top 10 player of all time, if we're being honest. Moving on to our next topic, I want to focus in on a team that I look into closely. I'm going to talk about the Boston Celtics and the question of, could they potentially win it all? And if you talk about that Boston Celtics team, let's go back to December and January. They were around 10 or 11th, sitting outside the play-in, and right now they're 51-31. The 3rd seed, gonna match up probably with the Bulls. It looks like they're matching up with the Bulls first round. That's going to be a really good series. I'm really excited for that. It's going to be a really good series. So we're excited. I'm looking forward to see. But again, on the Celtics, could they win it all? I think they could. You look at this team where they were sitting at 11th. A lot of people wanted to break up Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They don't think those two guys can play together. I've always thought that idea was ridiculous. I feel like if you have two, I'll say you got two top 15 guys under 26, do you build with those two? Like, you got like Celtics are one of the teams in the East, unlike Miami that pretty much just came together. Same thing with Philly, they just came together. Like that core in Boston, the Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, they had played together for like 6 years. Like as long as those guys have been in the league, they have been on the same team. And I think consistency means something once we get into these deep playoff rounds. Because, again, when you have a set rotation, guys are going to be there. Like when we talk, we're going to get into Philadelphia later. But when it gets to the fourth quarter, when Embiid usually gets the ball, but James Harden has the ball in his hands most of the time, what is that dynamic going to be? How does that change? But with the Celtics, I think everybody knows their role. You got guys like Peyton Pritchard coming off the bench. Them losing Robert Williams to a torn meniscus is tough. But I still think you got your core three. You got your Jason Tatum. You got your Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown. And this is a team that's been to the conference finals before. Let's not forget they went to the conference finals Jason Tatum's rookie year in 2018 when they took the Cavs to 7 games. They also went to the conference finals the bubble year against the Miami Heat. So this is a team with playoff experience together, and I think that's people don't talk about how important consistency and like having the same guys around is. So I think if the way the playoffs can match up, the way how teams could fall into line or whatever, I think the Celtics can mess around and really knock off a top team. It's really just going to be tough because you're going to see a team like most likely Bucks or Nets second round, and that's going to be really tough. It's going to be really tough for Boston to like beat a team like Nets if they get out the first round, because Nets are going to have to face the Bucks or the Heat, so the Nets are going to have a really tough first round. So back on the Celtics, I think they have the pieces, they have the defensive caliber, but it's just up to matchups. I expect them to beat a team like the Bulls. I haven't really been sold on the Bulls all year. I know like their record's good. They're sitting at 6, which they pretty much flipped because they were really high. They were a lot higher earlier in the year. But we'll see about the Celtics. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do, but I'm also like nervous because it's like, again, because right now they're sitting at number 3, and right now they're sitting at number 2. So right now, if Nets win that play-in series against Cleveland, which they most likely will, that's Nets Celtics first round. Or if it flips, it'll be Bucks Nets first round and Celtics Bulls. If it's Celtics Bulls, Celtics can beat the Bulls for sure. But Nets and Celtics, that's going to be a pretty tough series. So I'm excited to see what the Celtics will do in the playoffs. I'm excited to see what Jason Tatum's going to do. He's had an MVP caliber season. But moving on to another team in the Eastern Conference that I think a lot of people aren't really respecting. When you talk about what team is going to win the championship, I feel like everybody's been talking about Brooklyn all year. I know you got KD and Kyrie. But there's a defending champs named the Milwaukee Bucks who have probably the best player in the world right now, and that's Giannis Antetokounmpo. And it makes me ask, like, are people really sleeping on the Milwaukee Bucks, especially after what they did last year? And I think so. I think people still don't believe. I think people believe in Giannis, but they don't believe in his supporting cast. And I think a supporting cast is important because when you have, let me explain. We talk about a matchup between Nets and Bucks, right? You got KD and Kyrie. KD's virtually unguardable. Kyrie's pretty much virtually unguardable too. So those guys are probably going to give you, let's say KD's going to probably average around 30. Kyrie can average around 25, 27. But Giannis can average about 35 himself. And you got Middleton and Holiday who can give you 20 points. You still got you still got Bobby Portis. You still got a lot of role players who know their roles, and they play defense, and that's what's something that's super important defensively that I don't think the Nets have that. Milwaukee will lock you up. Like, yeah, they can let Kevin Durant, you can get what you want, but we're not going to let nobody else score. And and the Nets put themselves in position after the Harden trade. It can be debated that Harden trade was just as bad as the Russell Westbrook trade, but we'll talk about that later. But when we talk about this Bucks team and just them on paper and just how I'd say under the radar they're pretty much flying right now, because right now I talked about it, they could potentially face Nets first round or they could face Bulls first round. If it's Bulls first round, I got Bucks in 4. If it's Nets first round, I got Bucks in 7. Because again, Milwaukee's shown Giannis is 5-0 in his last matchup against Kevin Durant. I'll just say that. Giannis plays unbelievable against the Nets, and the Nets, I feel like, they gambled too much. You got rid of Karis LeVert, Dinwiddie, Jared Allen, and now you have Simmons. It's potential that he could come back first round, but it's just too many questions for that first round series for Nets to just go in and beat Milwaukee. So most likely, it's tough. It's really tough because, like I said, if it's Bulls, Bucks is gonna be easy. But Nets, again, I don't want to just bet against Kevin Durant, but again, you guys didn't put enough. There's not enough pieces on the Nets, I feel like, to match up against Milwaukee. And I think Milwaukee is the one team that I think everybody in the East really has no answer for. I don't think no one has an answer for Giannis. Giannis and the Bucks have been my pick to repeat. I'm going Giannis for back-to-back Finals MVPs. They're going back-to-back. I think it's set up to where, I feel like if Nets did their due diligence and created a actual set, solid roster, maybe it would be different. But, again, I think people are sleeping on the Bucks. I think when the Bucks are in the finals again, people are going to be shocked after they beat a lot of really good teams. So moving on to, I'd say, the most controversial. I think you could say controversial take or whatever you want to call it. Let's talk about the Philadelphia 76ers. And they honestly have maybe potentially the toughest matchup coming out of the playoffs. And that's against the Toronto Raptors. So it makes me ask the question, are the Sixers more likely to win it all or lose in the first round? And to answer that question, they're going to lose first round. I'm calling it right here. The Raptors are going to beat the Sixers first round because on paper, the Sixers are better. The Sixers are a better team. They have the better players. But Philly can just as easily lose that series and just hand it to the Raptors. When I say they can gift wrap that series to the Raptors, literally put it in a package, put it in a box, wrap it up. Merry Christmas. Here you go. Here's a easy first round win for the Toronto Raptors. A Raptors team with no true expectations, with a lot of productive guys that I don't think anybody's talking about. I think Van Vliet, Siakam, and Gary Trent Jr., those are guys averaging over 18 points. So, yes, Embiid's playing at an MVP level, but Embiid gets his numbers. Am I putting my faith in James Harden? No. Because if this series goes deep, either the Sixers have to get Toronto out of there. Either Toronto has to get swept or Toronto's going to win. It's literally no other way, because if this series just drags on, Toronto's going to win a few games in Canada for sure. They're going to definitely get a few games at home. They're one of the best teams at home. And this is a team with really nothing to lose. If they lose first round, yeah, we lost first round. We don't really have a star. But they beat Sixers. They oh, yeah, we're one of those. That's the worst team for the Sixers to face right now, is a team with nothing to lose. When Philadelphia has everything to lose. You did the whole thing with Ben Simmons. You've been trying the process for years. It didn't work. You held on to it. You had to give it up. You finally got something in return in James Harden. But when James Harden first got to Philly, he showed you oh yeah, we can be the next Shaq and Kobe. We're right on schedule. James Harden just fizzled away, and started doing what those 2 for 12 nights. And that rears its ugly head in the playoffs every year, especially in crucial elimination games. So to answer the question, yeah, I think the Sixers are most likely to lose first round. I think James Harden will be the reason why the Sixers do not make it. I think Embiid's going to play terrific, but getting rid of guys like Seth Curry, that's going to be tough because he was somebody that was going to give you consistent offense. That's something that, you're paying Tobias Harris like $30 million, and him giving you 15 to 12 to 15 points honestly just isn't enough. Like, you're just going to have to, like, it's so many factors. Like, Harden, if Harden doesn't play well, that means Maxey, Shake Milton, Tobias Harris, all those guys are going to step up. Will they step up? Are they going to get the shots? Are they going to get the shots when James Harden's out there to step up? I don't think so, sadly. I think it's going to come down to Harden's going to, unfortunately, derail the 76ers playoff hopes, championship hopes of what that. And before we go to break, I'm going to break down the entire Western and Eastern Conference playoff bracket right now with the way the standings are today. So right now the Suns, of course, are the first seed. Right now they will play the 8th seed, which would be either. So here's how let's start with the play-in tournament. So right now at the 7 and 8 spot, we got the Timberwolves and the Clippers. Most likely the Clippers will win that series and they will win the 7th seed. So it will be Clippers, Memphis in the first round. So the loser of Clippers and Timberwolves, so probably Timberwolves, will play the winner of Pelicans and Spurs. So it'll probably be Spurs versus Timberwolves. I go Timberwolves will be the 8th seed. So we got Suns, Timberwolves, Grizzlies, Clippers, Warriors, Denver, and Dallas and Jazz. And I'm going to start with this Dallas and Jazz series because I think this is the most fascinating right now because I'll say these two teams are probably evenly matched. This will be a 7-game series. Donovan Mitchell versus Luka Doncic. That's going to be one hell of a series, one hell of a matchup. And it's going to come down to this may be the last season we see this Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, and Mike Conley combination team. I think if the way it's looking, Dallas will win this series. So I'm picking Dallas in 6 or 7. And when that happens, and I think the Jazz might blow a 2-1, 3-1 lead. The Jazz have all the recipe, have the recipe this year for disaster. And I think it might need to happen. It might need, Donovan Mitchell did just sign that extension. So is he going to demand a trade? I don't think so. I think Rudy Gobert is the one you're going to have to move. But again, it's going to be tough. But back this matchup, Luka's been playing unbelievable basketball in this last month. And, Dallas haven't got out of the first round either. They had to see Clippers, Paul George, and Kawhi the last 2 years. So give me Dallas in that first round matchup. And then we're going to talk about Suns and Timberwolves. Now, I don't want to just Suns in 5. I'm just going to say Suns in 5. But I don't want to just discredit Minnesota because Minnesota has played great. And I'm glad to see them back in the playoffs. And I hope this isn't just a one-off year. I want to see them constantly competing. But Suns in 4. Suns in 4. Warriors Denver is going to be tough because I don't know the status of Stephen Curry yet. He's still out. I know they've been resting him on that little sprained ankle, but Klay Thompson and Draymond are trying to kind of getting their chemistry back. You still got Jordan Poole. So I think if it's no Steph for the first few games, Denver may win in 6 or 7. But if Steph's active for game 1, I got Warriors in 5. That's why I don't think Jokic should win MVP because he's going to lose first round. Grizzlies and Clippers, I think this might be probably will be the hot take. I think the Clippers are beating Memphis. I think Memphis is a regular season team. I don't think they really have what it takes to really make a lot of noise come postseason time. So I'm giving me Clippers over Grizzlies in the first round. And then moving on to the East right before we go to break real quick, it'll be 1 and 8. So the 8th seed will most likely be the Cleveland Cavaliers. Heat versus Cavs. Give me Heat in 5. Raptors, Sixers. I already talked about this. Give me Raptors in 6. Right now, Bucks, Bulls. Give me Bucks in 4. Nets and Celtics. Give me Celtics in 7. I mean, no, yeah, actually, give me Celtics in 7. I said that. I'm sticking with it. We're going to go to break real quick, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the NFL offseason, all the trades, of course, Tyreek Hill. We're going to talk about Deshaun Watson, all of that, right when we come back from break. You're listening to WVAC 107.9, Adrian College, Hit Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Round 1. Fight.
Open Gym, sports news and analysis, WVAC. And welcome back to Open Gym right here on WVAC 107.9, Adrian College Hit Radio. I am, of course, your host, Destin Foy. And let's get right into our NFL offseason breakdown. And let's just start off with a Tyreek Hill trade. I think that was the most shocking trade to me. And so, what does the Tyreek Hill trade mean for Pat Mahomes and Tua? It puts immense pressure on both those quarterbacks, especially the young quarterback in Tua, because a lot of people have questions about his accuracy, his skill as a quarterback, and you put a clear-cut number one receiver in Tyreek Hill right there. Tua has to, Dolphins have to at least contend, at least almost make the playoffs. They can't just get blown out the way. They can't just not even be remotely in there. And Tua's not Mahomes, Tyreek. Like, he's not, like, Tua's don't got the arm strength to just throw you a bomb 50 yards and just let you go and get it. You're going to get a lot of screens, a lot of slants, and he's fast, so he can still take those short routes and run. But it's just, I get it, the money, but I don't know. And then for Pat Mahomes, it kind of leaves him. I know they got Juju Smith-Schuster now, and you still got Kelsey. So I don't know. That's a really big piece of their offense that they lost. I don't know how they can. I don't. Juju's not a replacement of Tyreek. So it's tough. Like I want both of those guys to be successful still, but I think it's gonna be really bad if like I think Mahomes can still somewhat stay ahead of the curve, but I think for Tua, I think the pressure is gonna just almost be too much for him, where he just honestly won't be able to handle it. Moving on to another blockbuster wide receiver trade that kind of, I wouldn't say shocked the world, but I would say it kind of did. A lot of people didn't see the whole Devonta Adams, Aaron Rodgers trade. I mean, that whole team duo breaking up. But with the questions around Aaron Rodgers every season, at some point, Devonta Adams had to make a decision for himself. And so, of course, he was traded to the Las Vegas Raiders, for a slew of picks. And so it makes me ask the question, Deuce, does the Devonta Adams trade make the Raiders true contenders? And the Raiders were a team that started off really good this year, but, a lot of off-the-field stuff, the stuff with John Gruden, the stuff with the receiver, It's tough. It was a tough season, so they really needed it. But the AFC is no joke. Like, the AFC is no joke, especially the AFC West, because you got the Chiefs, the Broncos. The Broncos just got Russell Wilson. We'll talk about that in a second. But this is a tough division where you could potentially get that wild card. But are they going to win that? Are the Raiders winning that division? I doubt it. I don't think it makes them contenders. Now, I think I'm interested to see what Derek Carr and Devonta Adams will do, since they do have a relationship, but I'm excited to see it. But we'll just have to see. Moving on to another, we just mentioned it a little bit. The Broncos, of course, traded for Russell Wilson, and how far does Russell Wilson have to go to make this trade worth it? Russell Wilson's expressed his unhappiness in Seattle for the last few years. They haven't really put a lot of. They did draft DK Metcalf. You got skilled position players, but their protection just hasn't been there. Russell Wilson's been getting beat up for the last few years, and Seattle really hasn't made a lot of noise. He was injured last season, so I know this is a decision where he wants to be protected. I think the Broncos were really a quarterback away from, maybe making a lot of noise. But again, you're in a tough division, in a tough AFC. So I think the Broncos, of course, have to make the playoffs. I think you at least have to win a playoff game. I'll say you have to win a game at least to make this a so-called success. But I'm excited to see it. I'm glad for Russell Wilson. Player empowerment. I'm all here for it. Now, I don't know why I get joy talking about Baker Mayfield negatively. That's toxic. But Deshaun Watson was traded to the Cleveland Browns and then was given a massive contract with crazy amounts of guaranteed money that the NFL has never seen before. And Deshaun Watson not only is taking care of himself, but he's making it where a lot of players in the league are. The money is going to be out there now. The guaranteed money is a big thing because a lot of people, again, the NFL, you're going to get big contracts, but it's the guaranteed money is what people talk about. And they gave him a $230 million guaranteed because he already signed a $160 million extension. So that multi-year 230, that's guaranteed. He's getting that 230. And and they don't even know he's gonna play opening day. We still don't even know. Like, all the civil suits are out there still. I'm not here to talk about any of that stuff, whether deny or confirm any allegations against him. If he did that stuff, that's terrible. Shouldn't, like, I'm not even. Again, I'm not gonna go there. Really, I'm just gonna go where was Deshaun Watson the missing piece in Cleveland, and what does that mean for Baker? He was the missing piece 2 seasons ago. Like, you don't have Odell. You don't have Jarvis no more. Now there's no wide receiver weapons. You still got Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's really good. You still got your all-star, your all-pro running backs. But what about the receivers that you just let walk out? Because you were so keen on Baker, but then as soon as somebody else becomes available, you throw Baker to the curb. You basically essentially turn Baker Mayfield into, you forced him to be a backup now. Because you're not giving him the opportunity to, or even the choice to be. He requested a trade. Or you're not. Boston said. Cleveland said they're not going forward with his trade request. They're not. They don't care. They're not. They're gonna try to hold on to Baker because they also know the question mark around Deshaun Watson if he even plays this season. But how do you expect a guy like Baker Mayfield to go out there and win games to give 100% effort when you basically already hired his replacement? When you went out publicly and flirted with this person and basically said, yeah, I'm talking to other people and I'm not going to let you go nowhere else. Like, that is the definition of a toxic relationship. And this whole situation has become toxic. And it's Baker. Baker's been the common denominator throughout Kitchens, Hugh Jackson, Odell, Jarvis. It's Baker. I don't know why they're like, you got Deshaun now. I get it. You don't know what's going to happen. But let Baker go. Let him go somewhere where he can be himself again, where he can try to revitalize his career. Because it's unfortunate that you're going to just make him be a backup. And now that it kind of seems like no team wants him. Like, usually when a quarterback gets traded, like when Matt Stafford got traded to the Rams, they swapped quarterbacks. Of course, there were some draft picks along with it. But it was essentially, okay, you want Matt Stafford? We at least got to get Jared Goff. We at least need to get a quarterback up off you. Texans said, we don't even want Baker. That's just so crazy that people are just literally saying we do not want Baker. And I think you got to blame, it's on Baker. He didn't play well this season. And it's also on his fans for blaming always pointing the finger everywhere else but at him. Oh, it's Odell, it's Jarvis, it's the coach, it's this, it's that. It's never just Baker didn't play well. Simple as that. It's never just been Baker didn't play well. It's always been an outside factor, an outside excuse or reason. And that's whack. And I think, unfortunately, that played a part. I'm a believer in karma. And I think the karma came back and bit Baker Mayfield. And I hope he, of course, gets back into the NFL. I mean, becomes a starter. I think he's a starter in this league. I don't think he's a bench player. It's unfortunate that now they're just going to make him the backup, Baker backup. That kind of has a ring to it. And real quick before we wrap up Open Gym, we're going to talk about the Tom Brady off-season soap opera nonsense, and we're going to get into all of that. So starting off with, it was around right after the Super Bowl. Tom Brady, of course, it was a report by Adam Schefter that Tom Brady was going to retire But then those reports were then denied by Brady's camp. But then Brady then went days later and then officially announced his retirement. And then, of course, the whole GOAT stuff, ESPN, Instagram, social media just went crazy. And then a week later, dude comes back. So he pretty much pulled like a mini Michael Jordan. But then Bruce Arians retired. Chris Godwin's still hurt. I don't even think Chris Godwin's on the roster anymore. I don't think, what is him coming back gonna do? You already have nothing to prove. I don't see, you kind of went out on top with the Super Bowl last year. No, you didn't win this year, but everybody knows you kind of didn't have a lot of weapons. A lot of your major guys were hurt. So I don't really see the point of him returning this year. I don't think that's gonna do anything for his legacy, or who knows? Maybe he could win MVP. He still played terrific last year. He was an MVP candidate. But I'm not going to bet against Brady. I've learned my lesson. It's 7 times against betting against Brady, and I won't do it again. But thanks for listening to Open Gym. And one more time, actually, real quick before we leave, I want to just say rest in peace to Dwayne Haskins. Man, it's a sad. He was a young man. Of course, lost his life way too early. Didn't get to really reach his potential in the league. Could have really, I think he would have been a great, talented guy. OSU legend. Rest in peace to a young man, Dwayne Haskins. But again, thanks for listening to Open Gym right here on WVAC 107.9 Adrian College Hit Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Round 1, fight.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Open
may I have
Gym.
your attention, please?
Sports news and analysis.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?